Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and today I'm joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman. And on today's episode, we're hanging out with Trent Fisher from Born and Raised Outdoors. And if you don't know who Born and Raised is, you're living under a rock because those guys get out after it and they're all over the place, elk hunting fools. I've known Born and Raised, or I've been a fan of Born and Raised since... I want to say 12 years or something.
I was gonna say 15.
Yeah, a long time. I remember their stuff was coming out years and years ago. I'm an Oregon boy, so they had their videos out on DVDs back then, and I remember you'd go buy one at like the local bow shop, bring it home, punch it in your DVD player. Wasn't much YouTube going on. No Instagram, no Facebook. There's a little Facebook maybe creeping in there. Mm-hmm. But so we go way back. And in fact, I got to admit, Cody Kellum, Born and Raised, they kind of inspired me to start the whole gritty thing. I had a nice 6-figure income and a 9-to-5 job. A lot of work from home days in a previous life. And they kind of lit a fire. I mean, I got excited and Cody was helpful and just have a lot of respect for those guys and their work ethic and what they do. So appreciate that. And I got to catch up with them. We're both so busy. We don't see each other that often. And I did a podcast with them, with Cody and Trent, which was really fun on their podcast, Born and Raised podcast. And if you didn't know, they've got one, you can go check it out. So this show is with Trent and we kind of just catch up on some things. Share some opinions on, YouTube and filmmaking and hunting, maybe the industry a little bit. We kind of talk about, how they film. Like he asked me how I felt about not filming my bow hunts from last year. And I filmed them. Like you've seen my footage, Brent, of my solo archery elk hunt. And there's some cool stuff there. Mm-hmm. But I'm not Remy Warren and Timbernet, okay? I didn't film a solo. There's no kill shots. There's no climax or stock that's really on film that you can really tell a story with.
There's no one there to celebrate with afterwards.
Yeah, it's like you shoot it and you're just like, well, I killed an elk.
It's time to go home.
Yeah.
There's no celebration. There's no high fives.
It's different. Mm-hmm. And so I haven't published the content because although there's sort of daily vlogs and updates, and I carry my camera most of the time. It's almost more like a personal journal of the hunt, and it's cool, but it's not really a film. It's just like a diary.
We might make a little documentary series out of it.
Just like I tell you what happens each day, but I could do that like this, I don't know. I'm in the field and it's real and it's little by little.
What Brian's saying is he needs peer pressure from you, the audience, to produce that film.
Well,
we're just going to sit on it forever.
Well, what I was going to say is Trent asked me, do you regret not filming? And I'm like, nah. I mean, we have a discussion on solo hunting versus not solo hunting. And I got to admit, hanging out with Lampers and he's done quite a bit of solo hunting. I wanted to go out and really spend a lot of time trying to kill an elk by myself. And it was hugely rewarding and something that I selfishly want to keep doing. But I also have media to produce and content to produce. It's how we generate views and how we, fund what we do. And so it's a balance. Like I do want to film bow hunts. I killed my coos deer. I killed an elk last year. They were great, but
your weeks out in the field with no film. I mean, you get pictures. You do some Instagram stuff. It's just not the same.
The mule deer, late season mule deer archery, that was intense. And I should have killed a couple giant bucks, but people follow that on Instagram. We were getting 25,000 views a day on our IG story during that time, and that was really fun to bring people on in that setting, but it's not like a YouTube production. It's Instagram, which was fun, but otherwise I didn't really get bow hunts on film last year because they're way hard to film. But elk is probably the easiest one. If you have if you do have someone calling, and elk are loud and they charge in, but when you're solo, I was kind of spotting stock, and I don't have time. I can barely get it done without a camera, let alone with a camera. So, we talk about that a little bit. Trent's not really, I think, equipped for being solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a great conversation. So I hope you enjoy it. All right. Before we get into the podcast, you can save 10% at Alpaca Rafts right now for a short time. Use the code GRIDDY2020. You'll probably save about $100. Also use the code GRIDDY at Sissy Sticks, because everyone should have a pair of those trekking poles. They're a game changer. My favorite word. Use the code GRIDDY at Mountain Ops and get free shipping. Use the code GRIDDY at Seek Outside. You get 5% off all the shelters, tents, stoves, all that stuff. And use the code GRIDDY at Heather's Choice, and you save 15% on your backcountry meals and snacks. Check all those companies out there. Huge supporters of Gritty. We appreciate them. And every purchase you make with those guys using our affiliate codes helps us keep the show going on. So we really appreciate your support. And with that, let's get into the show. Welcome, folks, to the Gritty Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my friend Trent Fisher at Born and Raised from Born and Raised Outdoors. And Trent, we talked a little bit last week. You guys had me on your podcast.
Yeah.
How many shows are you guys putting out on the podcast side?
On the podcast side, we were cranking hard a while. What was it? Probably we had a little hiatus where we kind of fell off the map there for a while, but we were trying to do at least 2 a week is what we were trying to do, and then we were trying to get out 3 YouTube videos a week as well. And then on top of that, the emails, and then on top of that, the social posts, and then on top of that, so it's like, it is, dude, you can put so much into this. You've got to cap it at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. You'll see, I'll do YouTube really well for a few weeks. Yeah. Then I'll do social really well, and YouTube will fall off the map. And then I'll do the podcast, and that, in fact, we've done pretty good on the podcast, 2 to 3 shows a week for 3 months, but then
that's impressive.
And then last week we were so busy trying to get the bear hunt film out that we didn't do a single podcast. It's our first dry spell in a while. So, and that's just, you only have so many hours in a day. So
it is. And that's, I mean, all of this is a dream job, right? I mean, honestly, we are living the dream, and you can take that in a lot of different ways. I think you can work as much as you want to try to, or you can be like, there's been times I think in Born and Raised that we've kind of had to step back and be like, okay, what's important to us? Yeah, we could do, we could keep going until our heads are in the dirt, or we could just be like, okay, what works? What are we comfortable with? What works for us? And it's taken a while, honestly, to figure out what each person, and that's what, like we were talking right before we went live here, as far as everybody kind of has a role, I guess, and in Born and Raised, and it's we all fulfill different stuff, and that's why if you have something that you really hate, like doing, like managing the books, for instance,
right?
It's just like those are the things that you need to consider hiring out, because that will drag you, every time if it feels so job oriented when you're doing that. It's like, man, try to get someone to do that so it frees up that part of your life that you can go do something else that inspires you, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. When you do, what do they say? If you do stuff that you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life, or something like that.
Something like that. Teach a man to fish, and he can feed his family for 3 days. Something, I don't know.
It doesn't feel like work. It feels like a passion or a hobby in a lot of ways, but there is a ton of work involved in doing what we do. It's just different. I spend more hours behind a computer, more hours working now than I did when I was an IT consultant and did accounting. I'm behind the desk, but I also got to go hunt spring bear for 12 days.
Yeah.
So that might be my max vacation in my previous life for the year. Now, I might have to work really hard for 6 weeks in a row, and then I leave for a week or 2, and then I come back and I work hard for 4 weeks, and then I leave for 2 weeks. And so it's a lifestyle, but I do really love what I do. But it is work too at the same time. And world changes so quick. you know, and I can't, the one thing that I find the most frustrating is the YouTube social media censorship. That's Facebook. Like, literally, I remember back when I first started Instagram and there weren't all the algorithms, you could really share. When you put something out, people who followed you could see it. You know, Facebook,
Yeah.
if I don't pay money on Facebook, which I don't, you can't really access anyone the way theirs is built. And then YouTube, you know, you look back when Casey Levere was really starting out and his brother was doing it, and how much YouTube paid him to monetize, and, you know, and they could grow organically just by people, the masses, having access and then rewarding what they liked. Now you have YouTube involved. We published our bear video on Sunday, and YouTube says it's not fit for audiences. And it's like,
oh, did you guys get flagged?
Yeah, and it's like, why? Was it because
Sweet?
Was it because of the cliff?
Maybe. I don't know.
Like, YouTube
should
doesn't.
Death at its most primal fact. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe it's because it's a bear and not a deer. Because bear hunts, you know what I mean? And YouTube gets involved, and then they kind of. I feel like I miss the more organic days where there wasn't, the tech didn't decide what got to be shown and not shown to the public.
Sure.
And there weren't the algorithms that kind of, you know, shut down or promote content. I loved it when, you know, when I posted to Facebook back in the day, and it just went places, and it was a free form platform. I think in that case, really what happens is it's a more free world. Like, if you post something back in the day on Facebook, if people hated it, you knew it, you know, it didn't go anywhere. But if you're Casey Levere and you're super funny, and what you did hit the mark, then it took off, right?
Right.
Now there's a lot of involvement where it's like, no, we don't really want maybe this conservative kind of idea or hunting to be as prominent as this other voice.
Sure.
And it's not the same. It's not like it was. So, and trying to figure out how to navigate all that is tricky. Like, what if YouTube comes along and says no more hunting?
I need to really look for other employment.
Because
no, it's true, and that's the whole thing about, like, social media. But if you just look at social media alone, just in the last 10 years, how far it's come, you know. And it's now, and like you said, now, at first I think it was something neat and new. It's the new shiny thing, right? But now it's been so acclimated. It's like everybody's got an opinion now. Not only can you just show something, you better get ready to have 5,000 opinions on that same, you know, that same thing. So I think everything's evolving in that way. Yeah, I wish there was a different platform for, like, people like us, like the outdoor industry. It would be cool, but we've toyed around with that before and looked into it, and it's just not even, the numbers are not even close, not even in the ballpark of the audience that you're going to grab. So
that's why you see a lot of shows that are mainstream on YouTube, even though they have access to the other platforms. YouTube numbers are crazy. Yeah. I look at, from a hunting perspective, there are a few other outlets where you can put content. And I'm invited all the time to join those platforms. And I might put my stuff out there just so it's in redundant locations in case YouTube does say we're done.
Yeah.
But
it's super smart, man.
But
super smart.
You just can't deny how powerful YouTube and Google are. Like, their reach is crazy.
Taking over the world.
So let's talk a little bit about bear season. I saw you chase turkeys the other day, instead of bears, and you could see the mockery, you know, in the you know, the disdain sort of like seeping out your pores while Cody's all stoked on the turkey, and he's like,
"Oh man,"
he's all excited, and you're just like, "Yeah, sure, whatever."
Yeah, let's do this. Let's go kill a turkey bird. Yeah.
So the episodes I watched, I didn't hear you say that it was exactly like elk hunting.
No. To me, I mean, I think you get your people, right? You get your turkey hunters, and we're going to go back to this whole controversial thing, right? Where it's like, if they've grown up doing that, that's the only thing. That is the only thing. And it's like, I've grown up elk hunting, so I kind of hold the whole call-in sequence and everything at a pretty high standard. Like a 750-pound animal screaming and peeing on himself and ripping brush, ripping things out of the ground and stuff. That's kind of where my headspace is at. And then it's, they're cool. Don't get me wrong. When they come in and they do the drum thing and they boom, 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 that's cool. Don't get me wrong. But dude, it's not the same. Come on.
There are those similarities, right? Like you're trying to shock gobble them in the morning, get them to like go off, and you're like, oh, there they are. And the cat road shuffle's still there.
Tons of similarities.
Yeah, and you're moving in, then you're setting up, and you want the setup to be right so they can't see you too soon.
Right.
A lot of similarities. But at the end of the day, the difference is the 700-pound animal versus, the 30-pound.
It's the 700-pound elephant in the room, guys. Come on. I mean, it's you got to look at that. It's like, and then you get those guys. Well, at least a turkey's lighter to pack out. Well, a turkey can feed my family for one meal. Okay, an elk can feed it for a year.
Yeah. The other part I think is I say this all the time. I am ice. I'm the ice man when I'm shooting a doe or a cow. Like, I ain't gonna miss, bro. Like, I'm the best archery shooter on the planet. When it's an animal I am indifferent about taking, right? Like, but when there is and we all recognize, like, when there is a specimen of an animal out there that has lived year after year after year, evaded death over and over again, and is king of the mountains, when you can dupe or trick or outwit that animal, there's a whole different level of, it's like the unicorn. It's like, we all know how rare it is to garner that opportunity.
Right.
The stakes are way higher. And in that moment, you covet that animal and that success in a way that I don't with a cow elk walking by. And all of a sudden you get the buck fever and the pressure, and now it's like a whole different ballgame. And being the best archer in the world, you can still black out in those moments because it's just so incredible.
Oh, it's there's not, and it's something I think too, like you spend all season training, hiking and stuff, and you spend all season shooting at a foam elk or whatever, and you spend, and your whole mind is wrapped around that. Like turkey hunting, I don't think a lot of people train for it much. I don't think a lot of people just buy the turkey silhouette in the backyard and be like, man, I'm going to take it this year. Yeah, I got this, No, I think as Western guys, I think we dream a little bigger. I think we do.
Well, I think the pressure or the reward of that big mature bull elk adds, it's like when you're gambling, which I don't do very often. But let's say you make a bet with your buddies,
Love gambling.
Yeah. So you're sitting there, you got your cards, and it's like, dude, I'm going to put $400 on this. Your buddies are like, I don't make $400 in 2 weeks. Like, no way.
Yeah, no.
Well, all of a sudden, when you put that much on the table, there's a whole different feeling to that game than when there's $3 on the table. It's like it's just different. And I feel like that's the difference between calling in a monster elk and a turkey. The stakes just aren't as high. It's fun. It's really fun. And the card game is fun. But when you put Michael Jordan dollars on the table, in a gambling situation, there's no question. Like, all of a sudden things got real. And so
it does. And too, the thing with turkey is like the place we were in hunting mountain birds, and which was really fun. That was actually really, really cool, by the way. Rather than the barnyard, behind the barn setup, which was really awesome. But at that, we were bummed out, when we didn't have one, because I hunted 2 days. I hunted one evening and then the next, or 2 mornings. Anyway. And it was like a bummed out deal when we didn't get one that first morning. And I'm like, dude, that's elk hunting. We don't get one sometimes for 6 days. You know what I mean? It's like, anyway, and you just go and gobble one more other place, and there they are down there, and let's go get them, So it was, I thought the numbers didn't add up either for me as far as like Yeah, when you get an elk to bugle, everybody looks at each other like, okay, guys, this is our opportunity. Don't screw this up. Yeah. And then when you get a turkey to gobble, it's like, hey, let's go down and see if we can't clock him in, or whatever you do.
Well, and I think that the thing with both of them is there is something special about learning about animals, period, regardless of
100% talking to them,
understanding their behavior. Yeah, like, oh, that's what a turkey does, and this is what it's doing, how it's roosting, and this is why it comes in, and all of that I think is fun, like the card game, you know. But when the stakes there's a different feeling when it comes to the actual success, just because of those stakes that are out there. They're high. But the bear thing, what's hard is to know that you could be bear hunting, but instead you're out turkey hunting. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have any other options, yeah, turkey's a blast.
Turkey's okay. No.
But if you can chase bears, okay, a giant bruin at the same time, and you're spending your time chasing a bird, like the whole time I'd be chasing the bird, I'd be just chomping at the bit to go find a bear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the cool thing about this time of year, honestly. I don't know about you guys. You guys probably do it a little different, but our bear hunting usually, I mean, we've killed them in the morning, don't get me wrong, but they're usually pretty docile in the morning. And so that last 5 o'clock till dark is when we see probably 85% of our bears, honestly. And, which always ends up being an overnight bottom of a hellhole kind of a show. But I mean, that's just what it is. And then the turkey hunting thing, it seems like it's a daylight deal. You're getting them when they're roosting or whatever. And so you can split it up, which makes it, kind of fun. Something a little different. But if it was like a morning show on both species, turkey hunting might get put on the back burner. I've grown to liking bear hunting a lot more just in the last probably 3 years. Steve and I, we do it quite a bit now. And it's just, I'm not a giant fan of killing bears myself. I never grew up. My dad, we never had bear tags growing up. We saw some and stuff, but we never ever killed them. It was like always, and we talked about this on our last little talk, like eating bears was like, it just wasn't a thing. When I grew up, it just wasn't a thing. A bear was something that dug through the garbage, and and
right.
I'm just being honest, brother.
Right.
And
it's
so
infested with trichinosis and parasites.
Anything that if I don't cook it, it can kill me. If I don't cook it enough, I'm like, why? I don't think the good Lord wanted this in our body. I really don't.
Yeah.
And it's just like the lionfish. If you don't cook it right, you could die or something like that. Why? That's people that can't catch a tuna. That is made for people that can't catch tuna. So anyway, we never grew up eating it. And so we never got a tag for it or anything. And like this year I could have drawn a Southwest tag easily, and I just put in for a point instead of doing that. But it makes for a very awesome hunting experience, and a lot of people love bears. A lot of people, like you guys, you said that it's the greatest meat ever. You guys are, and maybe it's just my lack of diving into it that much as far as different ways to cook it and can it and stuff like that, which is totally cool. But it's one of those things where just not growing up eating them is just something that I just don't really. I enjoy elk, I enjoy deer really well, but I love going bear hunting. I love going out there and taking out youth or taking out whatever. First time that we've taken a bunch of people that's never killed a bear before and taking them out for their first time and getting them their first bears. It's a blast, man.
How old were you when you shot your first bear?
Probably high school, probably somewhere in there. I've only killed, I bet I've killed half a dozen or so in my life. Yeah.
Well, when you took that bear, do you remember what it was like? Because definitely bears have a sort of a mythical feel to them. I remember dreaming about taking a bear for the first time, and then like seeing one on the ground, touching its paws, the fur. Like it was pretty intense, actually. Like
it's totally, totally different when you're used to elk and deer. Totally different. The coarse hair and everything, and of course, I think the first or second one I shot, I can't remember anyway, was in the bottom of a skunk cabbage patch, and just chewing on skunk cabbage, stinky, nasty. And then you get your knife out and you're like, okay, well, where do I start for one? And so I just, ripped them down the back. And of course, that's where all the fat is. Your knife is covered in fat. Your hands are covered in grease. It was just like, what in the world am I doing here? It just felt weird. It felt weird.
Well, I think in your defense, I've shot bears on Prince of Wales Island and in Southeast Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
And they're eating skunk cabbage and they're ripping it out of the ground, and they're eating over there. They're eating in the fall anyway, a lot of rotten salmon, dying salmon fish, and they have so much access to fish. I mean, that's the bulk of these POW bear, Southeast Alaskan bear food sources. And the bear meat isn't that good. It's good if you process it right away and you can it pretty quickly. You cook it in the crock pot. It can be a good flavor, good enough.
Right.
But it doesn't. It's kind of like I shot a moose in BC, and you expect the moose to be phenomenal, and it was kind of like bear from POW. It was just meat, and
really?
it was kind of tender a little bit. I mean, it was okay.
Sure.
It wasn't spectacular. Now, Aaron was with me. He shot a moose, same, like the next day, similar, like they were right in the same area, same kind of age, everything's the same. His moose tasted like candy.
Really?
And my bear had a wound behind its shoulder where it had been stabbed by another moose. And it was probably a foot deep into his shoulder, and at least a gallon of pus came out of the wound. Ugh. And so it makes you wonder, like stress or who knows, like, I don't know what it is, but that meat, there's no comparison, but yet same species, same location, same everything. One thing I've known about bears, and, do you know Hank Shaw? Met him. He's the wild game cook. He's been, at our camp a couple times in Arizona with Randy Newberg doing the Coos deer thing. And he cooked my first Coatimundi, which is like that monkey looking, like in Arizona, they have these, I don't know if you've ever seen one, but they're these like meerkat sort of weird monkey looking things.
Yeah.
They're cool, but not necessarily something you think you might want to eat. But he cooked it up and it tasted phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. And so I think how you cook something definitely can help. But when I shot bears in POW versus bears that eat blueberries in the wintertime and they're high mountain bears, there's no comparison. And what Hank Shaw was saying, all omnivores are like this. Animals that eat both meat and plants, all omnivores, they tend to taste like, have a taste based on what they eat.
Feeding them,
strong taste of what they eat. So if they eat mostly blueberries, they taste like grass-fed beef, just delicious. And then if they eat skunk cabbage, they kind of taste like skunk cabbage and onion.
No, I've heard the same thing.
And I think that's the case strongly with bears. And so when Ryan Lampers would hunt Washington, but he hunted Washington where the blueberries were thick, and these bears have prehensile lips, so they're like they're like your fingers, so they can grab each individual berry with their lip, boop, boop, and they're efficient at it, and they just mow down these berries. And they Ryan would pull slabs of fat off a bear that's 5-6 inches thick, and that fat is super sweet and blueberry-ish. Ranello would do the same thing with those blueberry bears. And then he'll render the fat and he'll take it and spread it on toast like it's butter or jam and eat it. It really is. When I talk about the bears, especially that we've been taking the last couple of years, they're high mountain bears. They definitely taste delicious, much better than I think a coastal or lowland bear that's, eating a more bitter diet, I think, or subsisting on more meat or I should say fish. So kind of it's really local. That said, I've eaten some bears that are in garbage dumps, and like the POW bear, one of them I shot that was just a monster. He had tags in both ears. He'd been a problem bear. old bear, biggest bear I've ever taken. And, but he would get himself into trouble all the time. And then they'd like relocate him. And,
yeah. No, I've just never had the chance to talk to him and ask him what they're eating before I shot. So it was just like, I
think you need to do some canning though of some of that bear meat
right
after you get it, and
copy
test it.
And the big thing that I honestly do it. I mean, we could agree or argue or whatever all we want, but to me, a bear is a predator. It is. I've seen so many times. And it's going to start happening here just in the next couple of weeks where the fawns are just about ready to start dropping. And you'll see an elk herd. We have quite a few elk around where I live here and everything. And you will see bears not far from them, not far, feeding really close to the elk herds. And all they're waiting for is those fawns to drop and they can go get them. And to me, it's just like, I view a bear as a coyote or as a, some kind of and that's just me personally, I guess. Like I was just saying, you don't know if that bear just was on an elk carcass the day before. I don't care if it was, up in the Highlands of Scotland and fed on that nasty elk carcass with maggots. And because I've been on a couple bear hunts that it's just like, oh my goodness, when you get up to them, they're just pretty rank, just rolling and just nasty dead stuff. And
I love that smell.
Oh, I know you do. Can that smell? Can that, baby?
That's right, baby.
Oh, God.
It's funny you say that. They say bears have a sense of smell like 20,000 times greater than a bloodhound or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've seen these videos where they can sniff out, an elk about to give birth. They can smell
from miles and miles.
Yeah, and then they just follow that elk around, and they don't have to run after it because their nose is so strong. They just track it like a bloodhound tracks anything.
Yep.
And they just follow it, and then as it's giving birth or near when it's giving birth, they're supposed to be scentless, but for a bear, their noses are so different, so intense that they can find these fawns in a way that no other animal can. And I've seen them like stand there while the mother's giving birth, and then they run
just
up
waiting.
and grab it, and it's dead before it's halfway out,
Yeah. Yep. But that's Mother Nature too. I mean, that's just brutal. That's just the way Mother Nature is. It's super brutal. But at the same time, you can look at it a lot of different ways. I've never seen an elk or a deer do that in my
life. No, and I think what I think is great is in certain states, especially, bears are under harvested. Like there's so many. There are natural recurring sources.
Well, you lived here. I mean,
yeah.
There's nights that we'll go out and see 9 bears a night.
Right.
Just in like a 3-hour period.
Yeah. And so they're under harvested, under hunted, and then they do impact your fawn populations and fawn
100%
rates. And so I think especially if you like bear meat like I do, then it's such a great resource. And states give away the tags for cheap, even for non-residents. It's not expensive in a lot of states.
It's $16 for a non-resident for Oregon. $16.
Yeah,
Casey got one a couple years ago when he was sent. He's like, "Is this a misprint?" And I'm like, "Nope, we hate them."
Well, the thing is that supply and the demand is so far off,
Right.
And so I'm excited to get more guys out there doing it, especially because in the spring, I got to admit, I could watch bears for hours.
100%.
Like just
we normally do
play, fawns.
We've killed one bear this year, and we've seen I don't know how many dozens of bears.
So let's talk about your son's bear because I've watched that video and that was awesome. Cool. People should go and watch that. Your son is like a little twin. Like it's a mini me, Trent Fisher. Like it's hilarious.
Oh,
and
man.
I just want to say, you can see how this kid is raised. I was impressed. He's such a grateful kid. Like genuinely grateful and free with showing that gratitude,
100%.
to his uncle, gratitude to everyone around him, to Steve for giving him his tag, which was cool. Yeah. And so I'd like, can you explain that a little bit, how that went down?
Yeah. No, Wyatt screwed up on his application this year and didn't, because he was gonna apply for a spring bear tag, and anyway, something went wrong with that, and it just didn't happen, and so because he would have got it but anyway, didn't go through, and so he was kind of bummed and everything, and then when we started going out bear hunting, if they have all their homework done, if they, school's first all the time. So as far as if you've got all your stuff done, I'd say, Wyatt, you could, definitely you can tag along and come with us. And so, yeah. And then it just came to where Steve had a tag, and he's like, because Steve's killed how many bears?
Yeah. He's
somewhere
he's the bear killer in your group, right?
He's definitely the bear killer in our group. Yeah. 100%. And, so anyway, so Steve, we're every time out, Steve would be like, hey, you know what, you can shoot it and we were on a bear before, we videoed, and it was like 125-pound bear, probably somewhere in there. And it was just at the starting of season, and we got 2 months here. So, I mean, it's like, you got a long time, and the further the season goes, the more the bears come out. So anyway, we kind of not pushed him to pass on it, but like, you can shoot it if you want, but there's a lot of time left, I mean, it was one of those things. And I think he kind of knew that we were kind of pushing towards, let's just wait. But at the same time, it was his decision. I don't think that you should say, this is your deal, you have to do it now, kind of thing as a parent. So it just worked out awesome. The only thing that wasn't awesome is I wasn't there. I was out a different hunting for these turkey birds.
Which I saw that hunt too.
Oh man, but no, it was great. And that's the cool thing about our group. I think it's just, I trust Trevor and Steve and Cody to take my son out, or who, it's getting kids out in the outdoors. It's not, I mean, I think it'd be super selfish of me to say, yeah, well, you guys can't hunt unless Wyatt can't hunt unless I'm there. That's not the case at all. I just want, the experience. And I think it's really good, especially as a mentorship program kind of, and as a youth, to see different hunters. He's hunted with me how many times? A ton of times, but it's cool to him to learn things off of his uncles and off of, other people. So I think as a father role in that, I think it was awesome. Would I have liked to have been there? Heck yeah, I would have liked to have been there. And especially because it died 25 yards off the road. I would have loved it.
But you also, what's cool about what you do for a living is this is on video. You got to be there in a way that some people don't, because they don't run cameras like we do, and they can't edit and all that. So it's a special thing. I'm always grateful for that, because I have so many memories preserved in video and adventures that I can go back, and I was watching stuff from 5 years ago, and I'm like, I'm so glad I have that.
Dude, I thought about this the other day. Most of it, you don't think about it when you're in this is what we do for a living now, and we're blessed to do all this, and you don't think about that as much as like, man, you just kind of think back and look at it like, when I'm gone 100 years from now, or whenever, everybody, my great grandkids or whatever, will be able to see exactly what Grandpa did. And how cool would that be to see all your grandpa's adventure, that he went on and stuff. I mean, you got their stories, but that's all we have, and even back then they didn't take pictures. They just threw the horns in the barn and went to go to the next one. So it's kind of neat when you start to break it down in that aspect. It's pretty cool.
It is. Your son, one thing I enjoyed watching. So Steve, because of the mentorship program that is available in Oregon, an adult is able to give his tag to a youth if they fall under those conditions and rules of being a mentored youth. And so your son Wyatt is how old?
13. So he has to apply for, and it's free for kids. So it's, I think, for 13 to 16, something like that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's 9 to 16. So he could have killed. He killed my buck, my blacktail shoot, when I think he was 9 or 10 when he did that, and he mentored on that. But he just applies for a mentor, and it's free for him. And anyway, and then he can fill anybody's tag that has one. Elk tags, they don't get offered. They don't get offered.
Wow, that's kind of surprising. Interesting. I think that's really cool. I wish more states did that. I know some others do, but it would be I think that's smart. If I want to give my tag to my daughter and let her take some,
Right.
I would love to be able to do that.
So, no, when I said elk tags aren't offered, that was a selfish thing.
Oh,
they don't get the elk tag.
I see. Yeah. I see. It's not a state rule. It's a Trent rule.
Yeah, you got to jump through some more hoops before you get dad's elk tag. No, I'm just kidding. but yeah, no, it's anything from the age of 9 until, like I said, I think it's 16, I believe. It's not 18, I don't think so. And that's still their youth. So, and then their points, obviously, they can get double the point. There's a bunch of different rules for Oregon. Potentially he can kill a giant, bigger buck than I've ever thought about, if he draws these youth tags too. So there's a ton of opportunities in other states. I was talking to Uncle Randy Newberg the other day, and yeah, there's a ton in out of state too for youth that I didn't know about, so I haven't taken advantage of, but just and it's really, really affordable for out of state youth. Well, like if I put Wyatt or Hudson, my daughter, in for Wyoming or something, it's not that much money, I guess. And anyway, his son drew a coveted elk tag and killed a dandy bull. But anyway, so there's a lot of opportunity out there for kids that a lot of us, we don't think about as much.
I think Arizona is like $5 for you to go down
something
there.
Like that.
And Crazy. Then they can chase they can kill, they can hunt down lots of jackrabbits, coyotes, coati, the small game, all the birds. Like they can do all these things that are they almost just it's so inexpensive. It's practically free.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that's pretty cool. When Wyatt shot the bear, first of all, when he got about to shoot it, you could see the anticipation on him all day.
Yeah.
This isn't a kid that is sort of like, oh, my dad's making me go hunting. This is a kid who lives and breathes this stuff.
Yeah.
So when he got that, when he shot that bear, he was just like, you could see just the excitement and all that. That was pretty cool to watch.
He's pretty stone cold in the point of the shot and everything. He does a pretty darn good job. Steve, not the same. Not the same. No.
Which is why Steve is fun to watch, because
he's great.
When he sees a bear, an elk, a deer, he is so amped. Like it's next level, and it doesn't matter how many times he's done it. It doesn't matter.
No.
He's jacked. And
110.
And he's giving your son all the instructions, and your son's just like ice. He's like, fine, I got it, And I thought it was really cool. When he shot the bear, great shot.
Yeah.
That was a long shot, great shot. He looks quite comfortable behind the gun.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, and that's the other cool thing. Like Trevor's done a lot of long range stuff, and he takes Wyatt out a lot on the long range stuff, and so they'll shoot a lot, and I'll go out as much as I can too, as far as that goes, for sighting in and doing that, and learned a lot about. Because honestly, if you think about Born and Raised Outdoors, you think about elk probably and bow hunting, and we've rifle hunted all our lives as well. So it's just a lot that we didn't show on camera all the time, because I think and we're learning this more and more. It's I don't know. I think it's important when you do this for a job to do things that are off camera that aren't your job, if that makes any sense at all. And we're starting to get into more and more of this, like taking the kids fishing. That's the downside of that is everybody loves to watch kids go out and fish, but if you could just kind of break away a little bit more from that and just be like, okay, we're just going to go out, we're going to go have fun, and we're not going to worry about cameras, we're not going to worry about interviews, we're not going to worry about telling what's going on. We're just going to soak up the moment and have some fun. It's the same, but it's a little different, Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's as a parent and as a creator and film creator, whatever you want to call what we got going on, it's that happy medium there, right? But the kids, they grew up, what are they watching every day? They're watching YouTube, right? They want it. And so you have to be careful, I think, as a parent, because to show all their lives on YouTube as well, is that fair to them, or is that what I want, I guess? And so it's been that back and forth, kind of trying to find the balance there, I guess.
Yeah. I found my daughter went elk hunting with Anthony and I, and Brock. Anthony's son had a great elk tag. So
that was awesome, huh? That was awesome.
And,
wide open.
My daughter and my kids, getting them out, they always love it. And but I've tried as I film things to make it, and you guys probably do a good job of this too. I really try to film in a way that I feel is kind of unintrusive.
Yeah.
To the hunt. So I don't. It used to be a big ordeal. You bring out the camera and you do this, and you get the shot, and you do this, and it's like I don't really do. I just sort of, it's instinctive in a way where I'm just filming and I go, and it doesn't really interfere or intrude on my hunt. I don't really notice it. And Lampers has gotten so comfortable with the camera, he doesn't either. But when we were out with his cousin James there for the first time, Sylvester, I put the camera up on him last year, and he just froze.
I remember that.
He just froze. He's like, we were talking in a normal conversation. Then I flipped the camera. It wasn't seamless for James.
Wasn't seamless.
He noticed that there was a camera, and I've taken it for granted now, where it's just a person I'm talking to in a way, and it's real seamless, and it's fine. It doesn't interfere too much with the hunt. So I tend to bring the camera more often than not nowadays to record something, because it isn't the ordeal that it used to be, where it was really intrusive. Yeah. Still, I hear where you're coming from, because there's something special. Last year, I didn't film my archery elk hunt.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that. Regrets, any?
Well, I actually have a ton of footage of the elk hunt, and we're going to put it out at some point. But it's more like a diary or a vlog, because I'm by myself, and my priority was to just solo elk hunt and just soak up the outdoors and not be bogged down by a camera. But I still brought the camera because it's easy, like I said, seamless. So I filmed like where I'm at, and I talked to the camera about my strategy, and this is where the bull is, and this is where I saw one last night, and there's a couple shots of animals that I filmed, but I didn't bring a giant 400 millimeter lens to film animals at distance and all that, because I was solo backpacked in. I knew I wasn't going to be able to film the shot with that lens, and so I just brought a lightweight setup, and I vlogged it kind of. So the only thing about it is there is a story there, but it's sort of just a talking head mostly, because I'm just telling you this is where I went and this is what I saw. And there's not any footage of animals, not much footage of animals, because at the moment I was hunting, not filming.
Sure.
And so the stalks, the close encounters, the missed shot, like none of that's on camera.
Perfect.
And then the kill is not on camera. None of the pack out, there's a little bit of the pack out. There's just not much to show. And, but there is like 14 days of still the camera running and me talking. So I don't know but did I regret it? No. I loved not having to worry about a camera while bow hunting.
Yeah.
I loved it. I freaking loved it. And like you said earlier, it was just something about getting back to my roots and not having to worry about a film production, or I did it solely for the experience and not for any other reason. It wasn't the video is more or less personal, where I showed it to my brother when I got home, and I'm like, is there something to show? And he's like, yeah, man, this is cool. But I still haven't produced it because I'm not that keen on it, because it's still sort of a personal thing. It wasn't really a thing. And that said, I came back from that hunt going, okay, really with a drive. It was such a cool experience that going into the next year, I'm like, you know what? I want to try to film the archery elk bow, because that's the next challenge, I guess. I did it without the camera, and now it's like, okay, let's try it with the camera and see how that goes. And I don't know. There's something special about archery elk, period. No, it's just the screaming bulls. It's probably the most accessible yet like magnificent hunt you can do in the United States.
I would totally agree.
Like some things are like mountain goat, sheep, moose. They're spectacular, but they're not accessible. Yeah. Right. They're not obtainable. Where elk is, everyone can do it. Everyone can do it. And yet it's on that stature, if not higher, in terms of reward as these once in a lifetime type species. And so that makes it special. And no other animal on this continent screams and ruts like a bull elk.
No. There is something special about them, especially when you grew up. We've done it ever since we started, right? I mean, when we started in 2007, that's what we started doing, is filming, Trevor taking out a student loan and buying our first camera.
That's right.
and filming elk. And so I guess my only little piece of advice, if whatever it is to you, is finding that right guy to go with you. And we've talked about this before, but it makes a big difference if you don't have to even worry about the camera. All you're doing is hunting. The camera guy, he's there. There's a difference between capturing, right, and then going and editing, right. So it's just like, if you can just concentrate on the job at hand, and I think you'll find it way more, especially rewarding afterwards. Like when we started out, it was, man, I mean, if you got the kill on film, it was cooler than shooting the arrow that killed the animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a hero.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it was cool. So it was a big team effort as far as, okay, that guy that called it in, that's a whole nother step of coolness, right? And then the guy that actually successfully filmed the shot, that's a whole step of coolness. And the guy that actually shot the animal, that's a whole step of coolness right there. So I mean, it wasn't like, hey, nice job, you killed an elk, good work, yeah, whatever. No, it was just like, I got him, I shot him, and then it's like, I got it all, and then it's like, I just called in a bull for my buddy. So I mean, it's a three-way. It's a three-way reward. So it's
I'll be honest, like, Ben and Anthony and I have filmed, we have call-ins and that kind of footage.
Sure.
But it's all on like mini 8 tape, that's been converted. Oh, yeah. It's square aspect ratio. It's not like full screen. And it's all ghetto grainy footage. And by the time I started doing gritty and really got into it, and really got better at filming,
right,
I filmed Snyder shoot his elk with his recurve, his first elk ever with the recurve and stuff. And I filmed him shoot a couple of things. And then I got a few other elk hunts, archery things on film. But I'll tell you what ends up happening is you strive and you work and you grind and you try to kill a bull with a bow of this caliber you're looking for and all this stuff. And then you're 9 days in and you're just like,
what do we have here?
And the camera just stays in the backpack and we kill it. It's like, it's like so often we just stop running the camera and just get the job done. We abandoned the effort and I look back on lots of hunts where we were committed to film until it got so hard that we went full hunt mode and ditched the camera.
I thought you guys were called gritty. I thought that shows gritty Bowman.
Or, and part of the problem, like what you're saying, is all three of us have tags and we're trying to play cameraman.
Yep.
And what ends up happening is, a guy's carrying a camera and a bow, and we're backpacked in quite a ways. And he's still like, well, the elk moves off and we split up, and I don't know. It's the commitment to film is really secondary. Like we're hunting or tertiary. It could be third or fourth priority. And we just get caught up in the moment. And it's like, I don't care if it's on camera. I want this bull. And then
I want this bull.
And to hear you guys go, are you on it? Are you like, you guys actually will pass opportunities if the cameraman's not on it. I don't think I can do that. Like I've been there and I haven't done it yet. Like I'm like, screw you, cameraman. This bull's going down. Do you get in trouble if you're that guy?
Oh, hand slap, big time. Hand slap. No, I had a bull one time. It was in the Cascades actually, and I had it at 12 yards, and it was raking a tree. And Drew, and it was just like, I just didn't have Cody couldn't see him. He said, I don't have him. I don't got him. And so, and to add to that, Trevor was over, the bull circled around us. He was 10 yards from it with a bow, with everything, but he was caller at the point. And I mean, the bull just standing there at 10 yards wide open for Trevor. He could have shot him 1,000 times, nice 5-point. Anyway, and you sit down and it's just like after it all goes down and he wins us finally. And it's just like, what did we just do? Why? And then, but hey, hold on. Story's not over. So then we jump back, and it's just like, man, Trevor's just so frustrated. He should, could have shot him. And then, it's when you're relying on this meat for your family as well. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just, oh, we didn't get the video. It's like, there's a lot of heart that goes into it as well. And anyway, long story short, 3 hours later, we just slow played that bull, got back on him, and I killed him at 35 yards, full film. He rubbed viney maple, tore it out of the ground, and I shot him, which was, I mean, so at the end, was it the way to go? Yeah, it was the way to go. At the time, no. It was, there was a lot of finger pointing going on at that time. A lot of finger pointing. But it's just one of those things where I think we a couple things. Selfless acts is what has made Born and Raised Outdoors, and it's doing something for your brother because he'll do it for you. So it's like you've got those 10 days or 14 days with Anthony and your buddies, and it's like, okay, I've got, right here we go, we're going to split up into fives. This is your 5 days. I'm the cameraman, you're the caller, you're the shooter. You have that to get it done. And then, okay, well, it didn't work out. That's what happens. 5 more days. You're the, switch roles. And that's what's helped us as far as like everybody puts their heart and soul in for that guy. It's never like, well, that was your opportunity. That's too bad. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, if it doesn't pull through for someone, we'll double down and be like, hey, you can have my spot. Go ahead and get back in the driver's seat and let's get this done. And that's what's honestly, I mean, bar none, far and above, helped our success with hunting and business, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that. I that's the goal next time, is to film the archery elk, at least get some of that on film, because it is that quintessential species and adventure that a lot of guys, and it's what I grew up doing as well. And so I want to do that. I found that, hunting elk solo last year with a bow, though, was different than hunting with your buddies in a group and calling and all of that. And I called to locate elk, but last year I just tiptoed around birds and snuck in on them and got within like super tight, never let them know I was there. We'd back out, move back in the next day, tried not to let that herd ever know. I used a lot of Lamper's technique, basically. After watching him hunt and spending time with him and picking his brain, I was like, I got to do this solo thing, and I got to try to do this, the way he does. And Ryan will find a giant bull, and then he'll just watch it for days, and then he'll sneak in and get
just herd shadow it.
Yep, and then he'll get in and do it. And so I was so keen on that, and I did that last year, and that's how I killed that bull that I got. And it was a really special experience. And after having done that, because I talked to Remy and Tim Burnett too quite a bit about, well, at least Tim especially, about solo hunting and what that's like. And Ryan has he's hunted solo a lot.
Yeah.
He enjoys being by himself, it's just the way he's wired. And so after doing that, I didn't know how I would respond to just being alone every day, all day, hunting by myself.
Right.
And it actually turned out to be I loved it. I was addicted to it.
Did you really?
I loved it. Like,
I think I'd hate it.
I never even thought about the fact that nobody was there. I was so engaged and so busy and so deep in the hunt. And Ryan talked to me. I remember we were deer hunting in Arizona. That was the first hunt I ever did with Ryan for coos. And I was watching him hunt and talking to him. And we started talking, and he told me, he goes, one of the reasons I like hunting by myself is that I don't ever have to run my ideas by a committee. I don't have to talk to, and then he's like, I inevitably hunt differently when there are people with me, because I feel like, okay, I got to hurry this hunt up because the next guy's in line, right? Like, this is a group thing. When I'm by myself, he's like, I don't feel that pressure. I might decide to watch that bull for 2 more days before I even try to kill it. He's like, if I'm with a group, I feel like I can't do that. I feel like I gotta do differently. And he said, I find that I kill bigger, older animals more successfully by myself than I do with a group, because it's me all the time. If you think about it, you rotate. Like, you have a tag, and then it's like, okay, next guy's turn. think of all the animals you could have killed if it was just Trent, just doing it, without having to share your season with someone else.
100%.
It's not that one I think is better than the other. They're just totally different ideas with different rewards. The camaraderie isn't there because you're by yourself, but there is a certain amount of thinking and pondering that happens in that solitude that you can't get unless you're by yourself days on end. True. At night, listening, thinking. It really did help me find a center that you can lose just being so busy and distracted,
Sure.
I found it special. So this next season, I want to kind of do the solo, and then I want to try to film I got 2 tags. We'll see how it goes.
Sweet.
But my plan is, Trent, give me enough time. I'm going to be successful.
We're baby stepping this thing.
Give me enough days in the field. I will finally get it right. Like last year, it took 15 days solid pretty much. And I got it done.
That's awesome.
And I was like, I could have been done at day 7 and I could have been done at day 10 if I was better hunter, but I'm what I am. I'm what I am. And so it took me 15 days. And I always say that so often I feel like just give a guy enough days and the perfect storm is going to happen. Like that bull is going to walk in. It's going to give you the unmissable 100%. Shot, which I really need. And, you're going to have screwed up for the previous 3 grades. So you're so angry at yourself that now you're not going to blow it. It's every season it's the same progression I got to go through, and I get a little more efficient each time.
Yeah.
Still, that's why I feel like I have a luxury nowadays where I can tag out. I think I'll fill both elk tags and it'll be great because I have the luxury of putting in the number of days needed to do it.
Sure.
When I talked to Ryan a couple years back, he was saying, he's like, I'm just going to stay. It was a Coos deer hunt. He saw this monster Boone and Crockett buck. He found it on day 1, and then he looked at it and watched it for the full 2 days. And then he said, and we were supposed to be there 5 or 6 days. And then Ryan's like, I found the buck I want.
I'm going to stay till I get him.
I'm going to stay till he's dead. I was like, well, how long? He's like, at least 21 days if I have to.
Good.
So you can imagine, I feel sorry for any animal that Ryan has decided that on because it's pretty much going to die.
It's
going to die. It's just that it's dead on its feet. But that sort of long game and persistence, I've learned is what it can take to be consistently successful. And not everyone can do that. I think about my life before Gritty. I just didn't have those days to give
14
up.
Days was if I could get 2 weeks off a season, I was jacked.
Right.
And I'm talking a year.
A year. I know. And so, but with that, Ryan managed to pull it off every year. I don't know, giving his employment and the way it worked. But you think about someone like that, the years or days in the field, and it's the same for you guys. Now that 50 days, land of the free 1, land of the free 2, you look at that and it's like the level of skill you have now compared to prior in the last few years, you've had to go from here, to so much higher in your skill set and in your ability to close the deal.
Every encounter teaches you that much more, right? So, and I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's just the whole elk versus turkey or elk versus other species kind of thing is you can hunt them so many different ways. I mean, our way is totally different than Lamper's way, than your way. Then our way is it's about the experience and the transition of calling and doing all that with your buddies, with your, so see, a solo hunt to me, it doesn't sound fun at all. I if someone said, hey, Trent, you get to go solo for 14 days. And I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm going to take this elk season off. I think I'll just kind of sit this one out.
That's how Corey Jacobson told me the same thing. He's like, Brian, why would I want to hunt elk if they're not screaming and their eyes aren't rolling in the back of their head and they're not charging in? Sneaking up on them and shadowing the herd, how freaking unclimactic.
Yeah, you kill a giant. Oh, well. No, it was Yeah, and it's never been about big elk for us. That's why this last year with Steve's tag in Arizona, it's big elk. It was a coveted tag, and so we're like, we've never really trophy hunted ever in our lives.
Right.
It's like first one that comes in, we're super grateful and blessed just to be here. And if we can get that animal, that's meat in the pot, man. So I mean, it's like, and now we're passing on 300-inch elk that I'm just pulling my hair out, just like, why, But it was a whole different experience of elk hunting, which is, I think, the nostalgia of it. I think it's that you can bugle them, you can herd shadow them, you can do tons of different techniques. Whereas like spring bear, we're grassy, clear, glassy units or grassy units, and trying to find one that we, that we want to take. So it's just the way that you hunt them, I think. But yeah, it's a mentality. I think it's definitely a mindset, I think, before you go into it.
Well, I think too that you understand your gifts and your talents. Like Ryan understands his. I feel like I'm getting a handle on mine. And by understanding what you really thrive on and what works for you, I spent years trying to learn from someone else and watching what they do and then mimicking it. And that's how we learn everything from the childhood on.
Sure.
And the more I started to hunt with different styles and different people, I started to realize, okay, Brian, you're really good at X, Y, and Z. You're not so good at ABC. So then you can start pursuing a style that really does lend to your strengths or your interests. And
sure,
that's where
stay in your lane, brother.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah. And so I feel like that's been really fun because there's certain interests and skills that I have, putting those to bear and not trying to make myself someone I'm not has really been a change for me. I've really felt like I've grown a lot because of that. And it's hard because you might idolize someone or a style, but then you find you're not so good at it, and you could keep trying. And if I say do whatever you love, but I find that you tend to love what you're good at.
It does seem to kind of rise towards the top. Yeah, it does. No, it's one of those things where, if elk aren't bugling, we all look at each other like, this sucks. What are we? Because the stuff we hunt's so thick in a lot of places, and like talking to Cameron Haynes and stuff. I mean, he doesn't bugle. He doesn't do. Mm-hmm. He'll throw a cow call out every once in a while, but he's more of a just slip around, find the herds and stuff, and so it's just everybody's different in the way that they do things.
Corey did that spot and stock elk with Uncle Randy.
Uncle Randy ran him through the
and he came back from that hunt, and I talked to him like, so cool. Wasn't it cool? Like adrenaline pumping as he got closer and closer to the bull. And he's like, no, it sucked. My legs were burning. I was tired. It was hot. There's nothing fun about it. It was really a lot of pressure. And he's like, and then I killed it, and it was like boring. I'm like, what? I was on my hands and my I was on the edge of my seat watching that. And he's like,
no,
not so much.
Everybody has their different ways. Everybody has their stuff.
We should probably wrap this up, but before we do, I want to ask you what your favorite elk hunting experience was from last year. Like which moment
from last year,
from last year's hunts, what was, for you kind of the high point?
Man. It was probably the hunt that I'm talking about with Steve. We learned so much, and it was the first time. So like usually it's we sign on with a group or something of that nature. Like if you watch Land of the Free 1.0 and 2.0 and last year we tried to switch gears a little bit, but just do an elk season. It wasn't like going to be every single day documentary of every day's goings on. It was like kind of a highlight reel a little bit. We'd bunch 2 days together, if it wasn't as an editor and stuff, you look back at things and you're like, okay, that day we got one bugle and didn't see an elk. We hiked, 15 miles or whatever. It's just like, how do I show the viewer that this was an awesome day? That this
right. There's all pressure there.
Yeah. And people like and don't like. People loved seeing the day by day. They loved that, and it just as I don't know, as a filmmaker and stuff, it's like I'm not saying we've got away from it, but we're still toying with how do we present that, right? How do we do that? And because we just wanted to show in the first 2 seasons We just want to show the trials and struggles and tribulations that you go through on a normal elk hunt.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like you said, it's like you've got these days to hunt, and then we didn't see anything today, or we didn't hear anything, and it poured down rain, so we couldn't film anything. So we're stuck in our tents for 12 hours. There's those days, and so it's all about the footage. It's all about the experience of it and capturing that and sharing it. So that side of things it makes it sweeter when it comes together too, obviously. So there's that side of things too. But last year with Steve's tag in Arizona, I mean, it was a coveted elk tag, and we, like I said, we never passed up a bull before. It was always, hey, if it comes in, anybody's going to shoot it. I mean, we grew up hunting Roosevelts where if you kill a 3-point, you're jacked. I mean, that is a trophy. Ask Corey Jacobson.
Totally.
So I mean, it's a tough animal to get and to venture out and being able to go out of state and do all these different things have been just a huge blessing to us. But that tag, it was a roller coaster just because of the fact that Steve, we were all in as a group. He wanted to kill a 320-inch bull. That was his goal, a 320-inch bull. And totally doable in this unit that we were in. But at the same time, none of us know how to judge elk, it turns out, because we shoot every single one that we can. So it's like it would come in, and Steve asked me before if I could be cameraman the whole time, if I could be over his shoulder for the whole hunt. And not that he doesn't like Trevor and Cody, but me and Steve I can calm Steve down in certain, because he gets wound up, as people know. And so I have a gift that, I can calm him down a little bit and in the heat of the battle. And so anyway, done it lots of times. It doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. and so he asked me to be cameraman. So I said, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be over your shoulder. So I got to be up front in the front row of the theater the whole hunt. And it was just so much fun as far as the bull would come in, and then I would be like, and I'm trying to film, how the obligations are and the focus and trying to get the bull's tines moving through all these trees, all that stuff. And at the same time, while Steve is in my ear going, how big is it? How big is he? How big is he? I'm just like, I can't even see the dang thing. And so I'm just looking at it, I'm just like, 300, 310. And he's just like, 310, what? It's just like, I don't know. It could be 400. I don't know. Just
right.
throwing some numbers out there at like what I think it is. And then it went from that to the emotional roller coaster of Steve set these bounds. And then it just, the whole thing, the whole table's turned on us. He's just like, why does it matter? The next one we call in, you're not going to let me shoot it anyway. And I'm like, hold it. Yeah, back her down a little bit here. And so it was just that the roller coaster of being the cameraman was fun, stressful, all these different things, and it all turned out awesome. He shot a 340 bull. It was great. The footage turned out incredible. It was awesome. The whole thing went over really, really well. But that hunt really stuck out to me because we didn't have any hired cameraman. We had me and Trevor and Cody and Steve. It was just the four of us. For the whole time, we were going to give it as long as it took. We didn't care. And we were in it for Steve, and we were trying to kill him, the biggest bull that he's ever killed in his life. And he ended up doing that. But as an elk hunter, I think, you're addicted to the interaction, right? And so every bull that would come in, it was almost as if, pulling the trigger and killing it would have been awesome, but it was almost as if you did. And every single one, I was like, okay, we played his game. We got him within bow range. We decided not to take him, and we'd never done that before. And being that whole new aspect of it, it was pretty dang cool. It was really, really cool.
Arizona is a different place.
Magical, I would call it.
I got to hunt there a couple of times. My uncle owns High Point Outfitters out there.
Oh, nice.
And he's grown up. I was born in Flagstaff. All my family lives right there. All my dad's side of the family lives right there. Most of them. And Flagstaff, Arizona has been in our blood. And you get up there and you just see they're spoiled. They're spoiled. I did a podcast with Jay Scott years ago, and he's like, Brian, you don't need to be fit to hunt elk. I'm like, yeah. If you're from Arizona, if you're hunting there, if you're a guide every year in Arizona, you have no idea. Come hunt Roosevelt, okay? And then tell me I don't have to be in shape. Like, different.
Tell me I'll never get frustrated. So you throw a bugle out and you get like 6 bugles back, different elk, and you're like, no way.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was a magical, special place, and it was just a time that all of us needed. I think just going into that and just being together and just the camaraderie of it, and it was just a really, really neat thing.
A few years back, I did that hunt with it was Snyder and Mountain Ops. We did this. We called it Elk Ops, and we were down the canal.
Yeah,
and there were all those.
I saw that.
That was it was all leased private property, and there were elk coming out your ears and big giant bulls going nuts. I'd never seen that many elk in one spot, all fighting each other all day long, and I never heard the sounds that they made. They were so vocal. It was just vocal nonstop.
Right.
Weird sounds that I just hadn't heard. And sometimes I heard them actually, like, and I was like, that's not an elk sound. I'd hear some elk caller like showing off, and I'm like, yeah, elk don't do that. They don't do that.
Grunting and doing all the elk things.
Yeah. And this like a high estrus whine thing that these cows would make. And well, in that setting, I saw it happen daily. It happened on the minute, just insane sounds. Like, and that's where I was like, man, if you grew up hunting more like Oregon, or you didn't get in that body of elk like that, it takes that body of elk for them to let it all hang out, like to be that intense, to be that amped. And this was in October, not September. I'd never really seen elk rut in October.
Yeah.
By then, they were so amped and in such giant herds and clashing so much, busted antlers, main beams missing. They're fighting each other hourly to kill each other. It was unreal, and it really gave me a lesson on elk that it filled a piece of the puzzle that I didn't even know I was missing.
Right.
And I think if you've spent a lot of time in Arizona, you've probably experienced things like that, and so you have a different mindset about elk and what elk do than maybe you do if you hunt elk out west in Oregon over the counter. Like that, I just had never seen that kind of thing before.
Because for us, hearing a bugle once a week that's awesome. You know what I mean? And it's one bugle. And
I rarely saw elk actually fight. They just run from each other.
You throw out that large estrus whine that you were talking about, the whole hillside will blow up and you won't see anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I loved it. Well, I'm gonna revisit that show. Do you have any cool hunts like that this year? Any coveted tags you got, or is it mostly kind of?
So we all have a ton of points in Oregon. So I mean, between 18 and 21 points, each one of us has. Every single one of us. So that's just for elk. And then deer, on the other hand, 18, I got 18 deer. Cody's got 21 or 2 deer point. I mean,
wow.
We all have a ton of elk and deer points. We've never really drawn a tag in our own state, honestly. I have 21 antelope points, and I've never hunted antelope in my life. So
I've got like 14 antelope points, and I've never hunted antelope in my life either.
Yeah, I just like it's in elk season. It's a goat. I think I'm good.
I know. I keep collecting points, but I'm not a resident of Oregon anymore. I need to stop spending the money.
No, just go.
I just need to go do the hunt. But I know Newberg loves his antelope, but I don't know.
It's a turkey, ain't it?
Yeah,
it's a turkey. Doggone.
It can't get it out of my blood, So anyway.
Yeah, no, and I'll cash those in at some point, and we'll go do an antelope hunt at some point. But no, we're this morning we tried to get Idaho tags. That was this morning, and that didn't pan out. Didn't pan out for us. So congratulations to everybody that did, jerks. Anyway, but Cody, he has a Wyoming draw coming up in about a week and a half, and we'll see what happens there. It's awesome. Hopefully he draws that tag, and that'll be with South Cox. So man, yeah, I can't wait to get back with that guy at some point. So great dude. So yeah, if we draw that, and then I don't know if we still haven't. We got what till the 15th to put in for Oregon. Today's the 11th. Something.
Yeah.
So I got a few more days to make a plan there. We have a meeting actually scheduled for tonight at 6:00 with just me and Trevor and Cody and Steve. We're gonna hammer it out. There could be I have an opportunity possibly, honestly, to hunt Alaska as well. So for Doll sheep, that's a wild card. Wild card, brother. Wild card.
Wow.
So.
I've got a couple of goats. I have enough points. I'll draw a goat tag in Utah in the next few years. And I have enough elk points in Utah that I can draw a sweet tag within the next 2 or 3 years.
Sweet.
But outside of that, it's over the counter, baby. It's over the counter type stuff.
Been there doing that. Yeah, all the time.
But it's special when you shoot a 300-inch bull over the counter public land. It's still the same.
When you shoot a 3-point over the counter, it's pretty special.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's all good. So before we go, anything you want to let the audience know about? Anything going on?
Just our regular stuff, man. Just our regular stuff. We're going to be I got bear hunt winners from the last elk season project. I got them coming out this Thursday. So we'll be doing a 4-day hunt with them. It should be a blast. I cannot wait for that hunt. And then we'll just be doing a day by day, probably something like that. We'll put together a bear series for that. So that should be fun. But other than that, just keep grinding, keep going,
Right
man. So,
well, Trent, appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Good talking to you again.
You too. Good luck out there, and stay gritty.
Absolutely.